TDC is giving you 4 days of Thanksgiving savings this weekend. Shop on Friday, 25th November. That day, save 25% off at all TDC retail stores. Pay no VAT on cash purchases and get up to 30% off selected products. Then on Saturday, 26th November, it's Super Saturday. Save 25% off cash purchases in store at the TDC Home and Building depots. Then on Sunday, shop tdcgroup.com and save 25% off online. On Monday, 28th November, Cyber Monday, shop tdcgroup.com with your code CYBER25 and save 25% site-wide. This weekend, the place to shop is your favorite TDC retail stores. Terms and conditions apply. See stores for details.
Flow, jingle all the way home to Flow, where the speed is faster and price is better. All the way home to Flow, merry connections that bring us together, yeah.
Christmas starts the moment you bundle your Flow internet with your Flow mobile. Because when you do, you get a free laptop. Plus, you get 100 megabits per second internet speed, 20 gigabytes of data, 4,000 local minutes, and unlimited WhatsApp and YouTube. That's our Christmas jingling your way to keep family close for Christmas and every day.
All the way home to Flow.
Visit discoverflow.co for more information.
Good morning, radio listeners, and welcome to Voices here on WinFM 98.9. It's a beautiful Wednesday morning in St. Kitts and Nevis. I'm your host this morning, Kevon Brown, and of course I am joined by the Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Terence Drew. Good morning, Prime Minister.
Morning. I want to thank you, Mr. Brown, for having me, and to thank WinFM for having me as well, and to be a part of your Voices program this morning. So thank you for having me, and let me say good morning to all of our citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis, at home and abroad, and those who are listening by radio or various media sources. I want to say good morning to our citizens as well.
All right, thank you so much for the greeting. And it is a pleasure to have you here on WinFM with us, and we hope we see you more often to have these discussions.
Well, you know, it will be, if it's not me, it will be part of my team who would be here. Yes, the government will be at WinFM to discuss various.
All right, thank you so much for that. So do you have a presentation prepared, or do we just jump right on into the questions?
I would like to say, just to administration 100 days. I think it has been a very impressive 100 days. We would have put out, I would have done a speech. I did a speech that was sent out. I also had SKNS and the information services put out information with respect to our accomplishments over the past 100 days. And when you look at that list of achievements, one would definitely agree that the achievements were very, very impressive. I think we were able to very quickly respond to a number of critical commitments that were made on the campaign trail. For example, the gratuitous payment to those who made a complaint at the Labor Department for having lost their employment because they did not take a vaccine at that time. We were able to deal with that issue. The issue of the honorarium, and the honorarium was paid to public servants who, in their normal course of work, were in direct contact with the virus. They were the frontline workers who are separate and apart from the rest of the essential workers. For example, a nurse in her normal duty is to deal with people who had the COVID virus and would have put their lives on the line had the virus been more which means had the virus been more deadly, then we would have lost more people. And those persons who actually put their lives on the line, those are the ones who were given the honorarium. Of course, we found out afterwards that a few persons had been given it, and the vast majority of those who deserve it didn't get it. And the frontline workers, and I stress the word frontline once again, who is different to essential. Frontline mean in your normal course of work, you are at risk of catching the virus as a public servant and even dying. And I made the point that was, of course, vehemently attacked, but only to find out afterwards that a handful of persons would have received an honorarium, including ministers who got up to $27,000, which is, of course, more than the year's salary for our minimum wage workers. And so that is an issue that really needed to be addressed, and we were able to do that. The other issue, the other matter we dealt with were children who had illnesses, and most of the times very severe illnesses, who could not be treated here in St. Kitts and Nevis, or who cannot be treated here in St. Kitts and Nevis and need care overseas, that we would create a fund for them. And a number, at least children are now benefiting from that. And so the parents don't have to walk around with sponsor sheets with the hope that they raise enough money to save their child's life. We were able to deal with that almost immediately. Those three are three important things. But as you go through the list, you would recognize the large number of things that we were able to do within that time. For example, the training of our healthcare workers, about 250 healthcare workers trained in basic life support, advanced life support, and PALS. These are critical certification courses that must be carried out if you are to have a workforce, a health workforce, that can deal effectively with the needs of our people. And so they were able to be certified and recertified as a result. As you know, I was able to go to the UN and make my presentation at the UN, where we argued about the effects of climate change and not having access to concessionary loans because we are considered high income, when in fact we look at the concept of MVI, which is the Multi-Vulnerability Index, which says that even though we might be considered high income, with respect to climate change, we are at the mercy of nature, in the sense that we can expect stronger hurricanes that can wipe us out. And that requires that we respond in a particular way in terms of our infrastructure and so forth, and that requires money. And so our argument was you have to consider this when you look at whether or not we should have access to grants and concessionary loans. And I'm happy to report that at COP27 in Egypt, that issue of loss and damage as a result of climate change was put on the agenda and passed. And so we'll have the opportunity to have access to more financial resources to help us to advance our country, especially to deal with the effects and scourge of climate change. We were able to deal with that, and that has brought, when you look at the legislative framework, we were able to bring forward very quickly 8 different pieces of legislation, which was excellent. And that shows that our AG is active. That also shows that our parliament is active, which is critical for the advancement of our country. One of the other things we were able to do was to make sure that women and youth are brought to the table. I would like to say from the onset that our country is still predominantly controlled by men. And women and youth given, especially women given opportunities, does not mean that you're forgetting the men at all. You're just trying to correct the inequality that exists, because we know where there is more equality, all of us benefit. Men benefit, women benefit, the country benefits. And therefore, it is our goal to create a country where there's equity among the sexes, where nobody is left out and people feel equally included. We were able to assemble the most women ever in the cabinet of St. Kitts and Nevis, a high percentage of women also in our parliament, and to be given those opportunity. That has been tremendously progressive. We're able to give a number of youth opportunities as well as we continue to build out. Now, I would like to say to our people that as we continue to build, we need to push towards the future, because what we are trying to achieve, Mr. Brown, is that we want to achieve what you call a sustainable island state. That is our lofty goal, and we can do it. We believe that we can become a net exporter of energy because we have enough energy in wind, solar, and geothermal. And as you know, we made that landmark agreement with the Nevis Island Administration, where we will be looking at geothermal as a federation. Already, the CDB has been involved, and we are moving towards making geothermal a reality in a few years. That is, of course, added to our benefit that we can have from solar energy, which will help us to provide, because we have an energy problem in St. Kitts and Nevis where there was hardly any investments in the energy sector, in the sense that just recently we had the breakdown of our generators. We had to buy 2 new sets of generators, and we have to be renting 2 generators to carry us through the high demand period, which is our Christmas carnival season. And then we have to purchase 2 brand new generators just to help us to move our country as far as our energy requirement is concerned. At the same time, we will be looking to build out our renewable energy platform. So those has also been set. The other thing we're able to do is to make college free for our students. So CFBC is free, tuition free for all of our students. We're able also to make tuition economic cost available to all of our students at the UE, irrespective of the course that they might pursue. Before, we know that some people were sidelined or not included in that benefit if they were studying, let's say, medicine or law or administration. And what that did is that it discriminated against people who did not have the financial resource. And so we eliminated that inequality in access to tertiary level education. We're able to make critical trips, for example, Taiwan, which benefited us tremendously. And really, to say to Taiwan that we are strongly with them, even though there is a change in administration. And out of that trip, there were a number of critical things in terms of the new hospital, in terms of our healthcare sector, in terms of other programs, in terms of scholarships and so forth, that we are moving forward with. We got the opportunity to get more scholarships and opportunities in healthcare advancement, which I've spoken of before. And so we are doing that. And what we are looking at now is the integrity in public life bills, anti-corruption bill, and so forth going forward. When you look at the tourism front, we have about 16 inaugural calls just for this season, and we are expecting over 1 million. That says to us that the Minister of Tourism, the Honorable Marsha Henderson, who is now in England seeking to reestablish relationships that had broken down, seeking to establish new relationships to help our tourism sector. She has been doing a tremendous job. Today, when I saw the trucks passing and the taxis passing filled with tourists, I say that is because of the work of our new tourism minister, making sure that tourism bounces back and bring the tangible benefits to all of us here in St. Kitts and Nevis. When you look across the spectrum from ministry to ministry, and during our discussion, you will be able to ask about these, but just looking at what we have been able to accomplish in these 100 days, one would definitely have to admit that this has been a tremendously successful first 100 days.
All right. Thank you very much, Prime Minister, for that. I know that the topic of the economy is kind of the main focus, the main driving discussion point right now in the community as it relates to your mention that the government had been spending more than it was bringing in. And a lot of people have asked the question and asked me the question specifically. If there are any figures aligned with those things, like is there an average on, what the expenditure and what the income is for the government, so that people have an idea of what you mean when you say, okay, we're running a deficit, we're spending more than we're getting in. Because there's been this ongoing conversation that how are we going to continue doing all of these social assistance programs if the country will end the year on a deficit?
Mm-hmm. Right. So that is a very good question that you have asked. And I think that when I initially made the statement, I think some statement was made in the public that, the country's situation was different. And so I think that it was SKN Newsline or Glenn Batt, journalist, who had done some research, and he put something out there which really shows exactly what I meant. A deficit means, and you have said it, and I think people have come to understand it now. In hearing you saying it, I'm happy that people have come to understand it, in the sense that you are spending out more than you are taking in. That is a fact. While I'm on the economy, I want to announce to the people that yesterday, the IMF released the 2018 Article 4 report. So I want the country to know that it is now available. That was a report that was hidden by the former administration, and I said that once I get there, I will seek to have it published so that our people can see it. So that is just a side note. And SKNS should be putting out a press release on it so that you would have a chance to see it, evaluate it, and see what it was about. This is all about our thrust when it comes to openness, transparency, and good governance. We'll also touch on a couple other issues that were hidden, like the hush puppy issue, the stem cell issue, and so forth, and the herpes issue. These were issues that affected our country, and the reports never came. But I want to update the country that the 2018 IMF Article 4 report has been published as of the 21st day of November 2022. And under our watch, in this administration, we will not allow something like that to happen again. We will not hide from the people. So what is happening here is that we expect the economy to grow this year because we went down very low as a result of COVID, so there was some bounce back. In the year coming up, we are also expecting some growth. But during this year, we had much more expenditure, right, than revenues that we were collecting. We are expecting next year that we will increase some of those revenues because tourism is already bouncing back. We are also going to expand into the agriculture, and we are going to go into construction. So we are going to revive construction, tourism is back, and so these two major sectors of the economy would help to drive growth and help us to keep up. Nonetheless, we discovered that there was a great deal of wastage, for one, and secondly, a lot of corrupt practices. For example, we are looking at the Basti High School issue. $14 million have been spent on a Basti High School, and there is nothing. And those are the kind of wastage that took place within the system.
You mean the new Basti High School?
The new Basti High School, $14 million already spent. And then you go to this site, there's no school. There's nothing to justify $14 million. And so we are looking at really cutting the waste in these areas, the wanton waste that has brought the expenditure extremely unnecessarily high. Mm-hmm. When we look at, for example, the PAP program, 7,000 plus people, a large number of persons not qualified, fake names, fake social security numbers, but collecting money, 7,000 plus. When you look at the peace program within the last 2 months, the last month before the elections, the numbers increased by hundreds. Whereas now the peace is costing over $2 million per month. That again, and we have discovered what took place within that program. And so we have seen all these things and all these wastage that were actually calculated. And so that is why we are having the PAP program, re-registration. We're having the peace program also to really become better organized so that it can respond to the needs of the people who are on the program. That is why wastage like the Basti High School have to be looked into, because a lot of it that we discovered really need to be corrected and be corrected soon. So we are hopeful because, as I've said, we will invest in the economy in order to seek to keep up. But we'll streamline these programs and make sure we cut out the corruption and the waste so that they respond to what they really need to respond to, so that we save on one hand, and that can, of course, cut the expenditure. but we maintain the programs to satisfy what needs need to be satisfied. And at the same time, we're expecting tourism to rebound, the construction sector also to rebound, and we'll make the necessary investments in agriculture. When it comes to the energy sector, we are actually thinking about creating energy as a sector formally, meaning that we can become net exporters of energy. And so I want to thank the Honorable Congress Maynard for putting Energy Task Force together to deal with how we're going to transition to renewable energy, but also how can we harness energy for export, whether it is in the form of hydrogen, which are advanced technologies and so forth, because I think that it is possible to do so. So the question of that is because we expect next year to clean up these programs, one, which will cut expenditure significantly, and two, the rebound of the tourism and construction sectors, which would add revenue to our system. So we are looking at good governance in addition to the rebounding of these important sectors of the economy.
All right. Before I move on to some other questions, as it relates to the $14 million spent on the new Bastia High School, is there any moves being made to recoup that money? Considering you said that there was nothing to show for it.
Well, the AG, of course, is looking at that very closely, and we are seeking to see where, and we'll update the country on the investigations and the actions that we would have taken. And so I want to just bring the people up to date that we are doing that at this particular point in time.
All right. Moving on to the honorarium, another question that has been coming to me very often as it relates to the honorarium and the double salary is people have been wondering how much that is going to cost the government, how much the honorariums will cost the government, and how much the double salary in November would end up costing the government.
Right. So we are definitely going to have budget debate, and all these numbers have to come to the fore. Mm-hmm. The honorarium, let me first start with the principles and the justification for doing such. The honorarium, really, as I had been speaking about giving a risk pay to those who in their normal course of work are exposed to a deadly virus. Thank God the virus in the Caribbean did not turn out to be as deadly as it could have been. Because had it been as deadly as it could have been, a lot of our frontline workers would have been dead, and their family members would have been dead as well. When I spoke about it, people said, we should put country above self. We should know that this is a national sacrifice. Lofty words. And I accept lofty words if they are justified. But only to find out later on, really, that there was a handful of persons who received honorarium, and those who put themselves on the front line did not receive anything. As in other countries, for example, the United States, irrespective of the deficit that they were running, or they had decided that persons who had done things like that should be given a tangible compensation. And so we decided to do it here. It was a promise. It was founded in the principle that those who put themselves on the front line and put their lives on the line, put their families' lives on the line, had this gone differently, they would have been dead, that they should be given a tangible compensation. However, it is not as high as I wish it could have been, but we were able to give them $2,000 to say thank you for putting your lives on the line. And as a country, we are grateful. And that has cost us some money. We respect that, but nothing we would not be able to deal with. I think it cost us over $5 million, but nothing we would not be able to deal with in the future. But I think in terms of what was just, it was well justified in doing that as well. When it came to the double salary matter, the other thing is the economy needs stimulation as well, and we have to stimulate the economy. We know that the public servants and all workers in St. Kitts and Nevis, and I encourage those in the private sector to even consider, doing something for their people. They had worked hard, and they put themselves out there. Those who were essential workers, but they may not have been frontline workers, but nonetheless, they worked hard. I met with the Treasury this morning, and I said to them, people are going to ask me, how is it I was able to give them a bonus when the country is running a deficit? And I said the justification would be this, that you as public servants, and I encourage the private sector, as I'm saying, You have worked hard. All of you have worked hard. You have put yourself out there. And I think that you needed to be shown in a tangible way that we appreciate that. But in addition to that, our aim is also to stimulate the economy, to get to people so that people can have a good Christmas, people can spend, help businesses, help all around. So all of us will benefit from that injection into the economy as well. And so it has those two aspects to it. One, the stimulation, and two, because people had worked hard within the public service. For example, as I said before, in the treasury they told me how they used to work, have to come this hour, some go that hour, and so forth. And so that was part of the calculation as well. The other thing, and so we had gone out and we have done that for them. It is something that we'll be able to manage, and we'll be able to stabilize the economy as we are stabilizing it at this point in time. As I told you, we're going to hit hard in the construction field, the tourism. The CBI program is heavily dependent on right now, and we're going to diversify our economy so that we're not so heavily dependent on the CBI alone. You can have CBI, you can have tourism, you can have construction, you can have agriculture, you can have energy, you can have the financial services, and we can have offshore educational sector and so forth. So we are looking at multiple aspects of the economy that we can develop to make sure that we are receiving the necessary revenues to continue the social programs and to keep us stable and strong.
So another question is, how would that injection of new funds, of more funds into the economy affect inflation? Because it could be suggested that that might push up inflation. What do you say to that?
Right. There is always the question that if you have more money in, that the question of inflation can actually go up. But based on the numbers we are looking at, right, in terms of how much will be injected and the issue of inflation, we are not seeing that it would be more than expected at this particular time.
Okay. Before we continue, we'll take a quick commercial break, and then we'll be back with more from the Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Terence Drew, after we pay a few bills.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Flow! Jingle all the way home to Flow, where the speed is faster and price is better. All the way home to Flow. Merry connections that bring us together. Yeah.
Christmas starts the moment you go postpaid with Flow. Because when you do, you get a free smartphone. Plus, you get Flow.co for more.
Campari, grapefruit, easy for we. Brother, he no hard it, easy for we. Campari, he no cup, easy for we. Brother, he no hard it, easy for we. Add the Campari with the grapefruit soda. That easy, bitter had the pre. Simple mixer, easy 1 3. Campari, grapefruit, that easy for we. If you mix a Campari grapefruit, add 1 part Campari to 3 parts grapefruit soda. Drink at the bar, on the beach, or when a girl reach. Must be 18 years or older to drink. Drink responsibly.
TDC is giving you 4 days of Thanksgiving savings this weekend. Shop on Friday, 25th November, Fat Day. Save 25% off at all TDC retail stores. Pay no VAT on cash purchases and get up to 30% off selected products. Then on Saturday, 26th November, it's Super Saturday. Save 25% off cash purchases in store at the TDC Home and Building depots. Then on Sunday, shop tdcgroup.com and save 25% off online. On Monday, 28th November, Cyber Monday, shop tdcgroup.com with your code CYBER25 and save 25% site-wide. This weekend, the place to shop is your favorite TDC retail stores. Terms and conditions apply. See stores for details.
And we're back with Voices here on WinFM 98.9. I am joined by Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Terence Drew. And we're having a bit of a discussion on the economy. I know you mentioned when you announced the additional salary in November that you suggested or encouraged that statutory bodies do the same. And I noticed that there have been a lot of discourse on social media with people stating that they're from statutory bodies complaining about they have not received the additional pay, and I know they're under the assumption that you are the one to push for the statutory bodies to, hey, pay this money, pay that money. What would you say to the people who are, having these grievances that relates to statutory bodies, not paying the suggested additional money?
Well, I think the statutory bodies will be paid. I think, for example, Skellig, I think, was paid already. But they will be paid during the course of this week. There is an arrangement that would have been made between them and the Ministry of Finance and so forth, and I think that has been done. So it's a bit delayed, but it will be delivered.
Well, I'm sure that many people are happy to hear you say that.
You see, the is we want to say to our workers and to our people, let me tell you why. Again, it's a matter of principle as well. For the last 2 years, people have taken a beating. We came to the end of those 2 years, and on August, the first action I took, Mr. Brown, was really to get rid of all the COVID restrictions. They were not necessary. They were based on scientific data. But the former administration had been advised since May that they could alleviate the restrictions. As a result of that, our economy was hit hard. Why? Because the longer you keep these restrictions, it means less people coming in, less people will choose St. Kitts and Nevis as a destination, so it hit the tourism industry as well. And where you have restrictions, it means that the economy, to some extent, is tethered. And that is why I took that first action on the 7th of August. And that is why when I meet with persons from the international tourism sector, for example, those who are the managers of cruise lines, and I just met with one cruise line about a week ago, and they said, thank you, St. Kitts. Thank you for opening up. The first ship, I think it was a seaborne ship, an inaugural call that took place a few weeks ago where I spoke at the Carambola. They again said, thanks. So we have opened up the economy. For the last 2 years, our people suffered. They got a beating. And the objective is that this Christmas be a Christmas of rebound, so that people can go out and buy a gift for themselves, a gift for their family, gifts for their children, so that they can have a good Christmas meal, so that they can buy a new dress, a new outfit, so that they can, in a sense, start to look at some self-care and to recuperate emotionally and psychologically from the stress they would have gone through the last 2 years. And I think it's important that in the calculation of all of this, that be taken into great consideration. I want to say to our people that you have worked hard, that you have done a lot, and we, as a country, we need to say thanks. But I want our people to have an excellent Christmas season where they can enjoy some of the things they had to sacrifice over the last 2 years. We are open country. We have no restrictions, scientifically based decision, and I'm asking you to have an excellent Christmas season. And we respond to that, Mr. Brown, that what can we do for our people to ensure that after having suffered so much for the last 2 years?
Was there any, or has there been any consideration for possibly, increasing the salary of civil servants instead of the bonus?
Right. So they had a recent increase. There's always a possibility of an increase. We have an economic committee that we have put together to look at that, to look at further increases. Remember, we are looking at increasing even the minimum wage, which we have taught, so that is being studied as well. And when it becomes feasible, we will, of course, update the country on that as well. And so this bonus is outside of even any increase that should be had, that should still be looked at. One of the things we're going to do in the new year is to start at some point to pay our public servants twice per month, 2 times per month instead of 1 time per month. Twice per month gives people a better opportunity to manage their monies, to budget better, and so forth. The studies have suggested that. So that is one of the things that we will do. And we will never, ever shy from making sure that our public servants getting the best compensation that they can have. So I have put this economic team together. We have put it together to make sure that we continuously look at the economy, get the best advice that we can have, always look for opportunities of compensating our people better. So that is always on the table, and I will keep it on the table always. Better working conditions outside of just increase in pay. We are looking at training of our civil service, restructuring it in a way that it responds to the modernity of running institutions and departments and so forth, so that we can really advance. We are looking at putting in an e-government so that we can become very efficient and effective and become attractive to investors, both locally and internationally. And so we'll be making a number of changes that will impact them positively, even outside of having an increase in pay. However, that would always be on the table to look at and not be on the back burner. We'll be always pushing and looking for ways in which we can better compensate our people.
All right. And you mentioned that you might be moving to a twice monthly. Would there be any consideration for anyone who want to opt out of that? Because I know some people generally prefer a salary. So would there be an option to opt out of that?
Right. So I have not discussed for persons to opt out. But if your salary is delivered, you can decide if you're going to touch it or not. So you can leave it until the end of the month. But you'll be available. That is what we are looking at this time.
All right. And there's been a lot of push for the St. Kitts and Nevis, the Federation, becoming a sustainable island state,
Yes.
And the implementation of how that is going to work out. You mentioned moving away from the over-reliance on the CBI program and building out tourism, etc. But as the pandemic showed, if anything happens, the tourism could get knocked right on out. So what other sectors are we working on? You mentioned the construction to help mitigate any issues that we would have in case another exogenous shock hits the Federation or hits the world. I know there's been talk about the agricultural sector and food sustainability. Where are we in fostering that food sustainability product and building out byproducts, et cetera, et cetera? That's
a very, very good question. When it comes to the diversification, and you touch on agriculture, and I want to thank the Minister of Agriculture, General Samuel Duggins, for what he has been doing. He is actually bringing the plan forward of what is already constituted as a plan to make us more food secure. We are looking at what you call 25 by 25, cutting our food bill by 25% by the year 2025. And we think that we can be on track for that. In my first discussion with the African Bank, for example, was the development of a fish processing plant so that we can start producing enough fish here, either wild caught or grown, as part of an industry to really start providing that. We have also discussed a chicken plant where we can actually produce chicken at a high enough level to really support what we need. When it comes to the agricultural sector, for example, the last conversation I had with the Minister of Agriculture, and he's already putting it together. For example, the area, we have a lot of land. We have a lot of people on the STEP program. Why we can't put these persons to work on farms to produce food for our people? We already have the workers, we are paying them. We have the land here in St. Kitts and Nevis. And so if we have a robust agricultural sector with land and people, we can start to really grow much more food. So if we can produce fish, chicken, and produce much more crops here in St. Kitts and Nevis, where we can use the land wisely, I think that would set us on a path to make sure we become sustainable in terms of our food source and to become more, food secure. So these are actual things being looked at. The last time he talked about importation of new plant products, bananas, plantains, breadfruit and so forth, to have an abundance of those things that can give a diversified number of products, for example. And so that plan actually has these things incorporated in them, because we have to take it very seriously. Because the last time when COVID hit and the boat did not come, maybe 1 or 2 days, the shelves started to go empty very quickly. And if at any point we did not realize how dependent we were on imported food, that was a real lesson. And so we have to deal with that. And so we will make sure that we plan out the agricultural sector so that we want to achieve at least the 25 by 2025. And so we'll be pushing on that front. When it comes to the the housing fund, as I've said before, we will use the CBI program to build houses across St. Kitts and Nevis. It would help in a number of areas. One, it would add an injection to the economy, but secondly, it would provide a lot of jobs. And three, it will give us a real opportunity to lift people out of poverty. Because when people own property and the equity that's in that property can actually add to the overall wealth portfolio, that helps them to lift themselves out of poverty. And if we build a substantial number of houses along with the other capital projects that we are looking at, we will be able to restart not restart, but jumpstart the construction sector as such. And as I told you before, we are looking at energy as a sector, and we have put a task force together to look at how we can do that. Because once we start to harness renewable energy and we're able to export, but just the effort alone of making sure we depend less on fossil fuel and more on renewable energy and cutting the cost associated with that, that would help us tremendously here. So the crux of the matter, what we have recognized, we need energy. Energy will help us to produce more water if we have to desalinate. Energy would cut our importation. Energy can power almost any other sector that we want to power. And that is part of the crux of the matter. Energy can also help us to build out the agricultural sector, because the agricultural sector would need energy as well to develop, to process, to get things done, to deliver water, all these things. And that is why we are looking at, when we talk about the sustainable island state, we are looking at building out these different sectors so that we can achieve it. But we know that it's achievable, and we'll continue to work towards that. What we are doing at this present moment, we have just been in just over 100 days, and you look at the critical things that we have done thus far. We are setting the foundation, and at this time, I ask our people to look at what we are doing. We are keeping our country afloat. We are moving along well. We are setting the foundation so that on this foundation, the sustainable island state can be built. And so a lot of work is being done. But as we continue through the administration, it gets easier in the sense that once you set a proper foundation, the work after that is, much easier than before. So I am finding, and we are finding, more time to go out in our constituencies, more time to respond to people, more time to get that groundwork in. But I'm asking our people at the same time that the opportunity, to give us that opportunity to set that foundation, and on that foundation, everything else will be built as we move forward. We really have the opportunity to be the first sustainable island state. Why not go after it? Because it will benefit all of us and all of our people, of course.
All right. As you mentioned, the 25 by 25, that kind of gives 3 years to achieve that goal. And you said that we are on track towards achieving that. Can you give any further details on that? Because 3 years seems like a very short time.
Right. So we, in the sense of what we have planned, in terms of our taking care of our meat supply, we really have an opportunity to do that. In terms of really using our workforce, especially on the step, to really move into the agricultural sector to start to grow food. It's already there. The workers are already there. The land is already there. The position is already there. The plan is already there. So that is why we have a great opportunity to really implement it, because we have the basic resources to do it. One of the challenges, of course, will be water, and we are not running from that at all. We have BEAD, who is here to help us with the drilling, and we are hoping that can yield significant amount of water. And where the water may not be potable in the sense that you can't drink it and so forth, can that water be used for agricultural purposes? So those are the kind of things we will be looking at as well.
All right, we are just about 15 minutes to the hour of 12. We are going to take another break before we come back and wrap up with a few final questions with the Prime Minister.
And if you want, if you want to entertain a few calls, that is fine. I can do that.
All right, we'll be right back after this break.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Basta! We run things are run we. Basta! Basta! Living color, do it differently. Basta! Basta! Large and in charge, like for the party. Basta! Basta! We set the pace, then everybody follow it.
7 flavors, best taste, Basta, bolder, better, better.
giving you 4 days of Thanksgiving savings this weekend. Shop on Friday, 25th November. Fat Day. Save 25% off at all TDC retail stores. Pay no VAT on cash purchases and get up to 30% off selected products. Then on Saturday, 26th November, it's Super Saturday. Save 25% off cash purchases in store at the TDC Home and Building depots. Then on Sunday, shop tdcgroup.com and save 25% off online. On Monday, 28th November, Cyber Monday, shop tdcgroup.com with your code CYBER25 and save 25% site-wide. This weekend, the place to shop is your favorite TDC retail stores. Terms and conditions apply. See stores for details.
Flow, Jingle all the way home to Flow, where the speed is faster and price is better. All the way home to Flow. Merry connections that bring us together, yeah.
Christmas starts the moment you bundle your Flow internet with your Flow mobile. Because when you do, you get a free laptop. Plus, you get 100 megabits per second internet speed, 20 gigabytes of data, 4,000 local minutes, and unlimited WhatsApp and YouTube. That's our Christmas jingling your way to keep family close for Christmas and every day.
All the way home to Flow.
Visit discoverflow.co for more information.
And we're back with Voices here on WinFM 98.9. I'm your host this morning, Kevon Brown, and I'm joined by the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, the Honorable Dr. Terence Drew. One final question before we get to the phone lines.
Sure.
Budget. Mm-hmm. Has the date been decided for when the budget presentations will start?
So we are finalizing the date, and it would be most likely from the second week in December. And we'll give that exact date of when we will determine when we'll start the budget debate.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, so we can take a few calls for those who are interested in conversing with the Prime Minister. I know that before the break, the phone lines were going off the hook. People want to call in and have a conversation.
And I look forward to interacting with the people as well.
Yes.
As I said before, as we build out, we have, we get more and more time, which gives us the opportunity to interact with our people, which is the critical aspect of all of this issue.
All right. We have our first caller. Good morning, caller. You're live on Voices.
Man, good morning. I'm so blessed. Good morning, Kevin. How are you doing?
Good morning, Miss Henry. I'm doing well. How are you?
Good morning to the PM.
Good morning. How are you?
Well, belated birthday greetings.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes.
Every day I pray that the Lord will give you wisdom to make wise decisions,
And I prefer for myself, and I prefer everybody as well.
Yeah. Because without wisdom, we say anything and do anything. Now, there is one thing, maybe one thing I want to ask you, and then other people could ask.
Sure.
The one about the housing.
Mm-hmm.
What role would NHC play, and what role would the independent small contractors play? Or will it be done strictly by the Chinese? That's one question.
Right. Critical question.
Related to that is the acquisition of land. Mm-hmm. What plans do you have to buy back land? Because if we want to have more agriculture, more housing, where will you get the land? Because the land, as you know, is already at the bank under the special whatever. What plan do you have to buy back land?
Okay.
So answer the first one. What role would NHC play?
No, when you're finished, I will be happy to answer your questions.
Yes. So I want to know, you said the CBI money. So are you going to give NHC the CBI money?
So I made the 2 notes of the questions you have asked. When you're finished, I will answer them.
Oh, yeah, thank you very much.
You're welcome, caller. Do you want me to answer now, Mr. Brown?
Yes, you can go ahead.
The moderator. So with respect to speaking about the CBI, of course, you have developers who are independent developers who can be engaged. That's one. Secondly, NHC is already a corporation that can be engaged to do this with a list of contractors and a mechanism of how this can be done. So yes, this can be done through the NHC. And our people will be the contractors, the builders, the masons, the carpenters, the plumbers, the electricians to see these projects through. And that is a very critical point to make. And so that is why I welcome the caller's question, which allowed me the opportunity to say that very clearly. So NHC can be engaged and will be engaged, and also private developers will also be engaged, and our people will be the ones to carry out this fundamental work. That's one. With respect to the land, we have identified land for agriculture. We still have a lot of land for agriculture. We have land that has not been tapped into. For example, we can do organic farming and a type of farming over in different areas that have not been touched as yet. So when it comes to land, we do have a lot of land that we can still use effectively for agriculture. But then again, sometimes when we think about agriculture, we think about one type of method. We have what you call hydroponics. We have greenhouses. As a matter of fact, in speaking with the Minister of Agriculture, he told me they have ordered greenhouses, which allows you to use less land and have high yield. Agriculture has shifted to a type where technology is employed, not just in terms of chemicals, but in terms of the way you farm and the methods you use to really give you a high output using small land requirement. Hydroponics, again, which allows you to really grow in small areas but produce in a significant amount. Aquaponic, we have not really gone into fishing in terms of growing fish or fish farming. What we do is mainly wild caught through different means. These are different methodologies that we'll be employing to ensure that we can deal with the issue of food security. So yes, we have different methodologies. Yes, we have land. Yes, we will invest in the land, back to the greenhouses, back to new forms of farming, really touching into the blue economy. We will be using the sea. We have about 47 more resources in the sea than we have land between St. Kitts and Nevis, 47 times more. That's how much we have in resource in the blue economy, which means the sea. And so we are going to explore that as well. So I want to say to the caller that when it comes to workers, when it comes to land, we do have. And so we have to make the necessary investments to build out the agricultural sector.
All right, we'll take another call. Good afternoon, caller. Sorry, we lost that caller. Good afternoon, caller. You're live on Voices.
Good afternoon, caller.
Hello, good afternoon.
Could you turn down your radio,
Hello?
please? Yes, go ahead.
Hello?
Yes.
Hi. Hi.
Hello, good
Hello?
afternoeen. Yes, hello?
I'm calling to ask Mr. Prime Minister a question.
Yes, sure.
Okay. I'm calling to find out when is it that sustainable will be pricing people's land, because we have young people out there waiting a while to get their land price. I have another question. I don't see the purpose of policemen getting double salary and they're not working. I have another question. When is it that Monkey Hill roads are going to be fixed? Because I think the Prime Minister lives at Monkey Hill, and the roads are very bad. They don't need to be patched. They need to be fixed.
All right. Thank you, caller, for your questions. Prime Minister will address
I can
them.
answer them. With respect to the St. Peter's Road, I'm happy that the caller said that they don't need to be patched. They need to be fixed. Because that was one of the vexing issues that I pointed out. I even went on the road and pointed out that the St. Peter's Road should have been included when the Island Main Road was paved and so forth, but we were excluded. And the answer was that we are not a part of the Island Main Road. St. Peter's is the largest area out of Basti. After Basti, St. Peter's is the fastest growing. It is larger than Keon, it is larger than Sandy Point, the other considered towns, and therefore the road to St. Peter's has to be considered a major roadway. I want to say that we have started to patch the road because the road was so bad, as she said. It was left out and left very bad by the last administration. And guess what? It is one of our major capital projects to be done after the next budget. So I want to say to the people of St. Peter's that your road is coming, our road is coming, and I'm happy to announce that, and I want to thank the caller the opportunity to really expound on that. So I'm happy for the people of St. Peter's, of the great state, as I usually term it. When it comes to sustainable and the land, what we found when we went in there is that the land was abused. There was a lot of corruptions around the land issue. You had one piece of land given to 5 people. up to 5 people. You have one person having 5 pieces of land. You had a lot of misinformation. So what has happened is that Sustainable has taken on a very critical process, and I spoke to the PS just over the weekend, that they are computerizing all of this information, digitizing this information. So when you go to Sustainable, they will be able to put in your name and your whole information come up instead of having to go look for all these paper. So I'm asking the public for a little bit of patience with Sustainable. They are digitizing, computerizing, and they're eliminating the abuse of the land resource here in St. Kitts and Nevis. One person with 5 pieces, 5 persons' name and one lot of land, that has created tremendous difficulty in dealing with the issues of land. Of course, we know before the elections, land was used as a political gimmick. And so nobody really looked at to properly structure it and organize it and so forth, because that was not the objective. The objective was to use it to win votes. And in doing that, the whole system was really destroyed. And so Sustainable now, in a very prudent way, is making sure that they computerize the system or digitize the system so that you can have accountability, transparency, openness, and you can effectively deal with the land matter. So I want to congratulate the PS and the Minister of Sustainable for that excellent job that they have been doing and all the workers of the Sustainable. And somebody actually touched on the piece. We have been making substantial changes to the piece as well to make sure that there's no abuse, to make sure that people work. We are making a new inventory to make sure that there's no abuse across multiple systems. So these are the things we inherited that we have been doing. The piece are registered as workers. You can't deny them that official designation by the former administration. What we found out is that Social Security was not being paid on their behalf, which is a serious disservice to them, which means if anything happens to them, their descendants get nothing, their families get nothing. Also, they don't have any Social Security if they get injured. They don't have any Social Security to help them. If they get sick, there's no Social Security. And so they have been abused as well for political gain and for political expediency. So that is why I'm saying that. So those are the changes we are making there to make sure that the piece functions as a group of persons who are employed to do work, whether it's a short term or longer term, but to make sure that we get what is supposed to be had. So that itself is going through the transformation with that set or group of workers.
All right. Can we entertain one more?
Sure.
Good afternoon, call. Ooh, sorry about that. Good afternoon, caller. You're live on Voices.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Belated birthday greetings, Mr. Prime Minister.
Thank you very much.
Yes, I'm just calling in reference, what about we non-establishment workers? Nothing being said about us.
Okay. Right. I can speak to it as to what we are discussing at this moment with respect to that. And so I'll go into depth on a number of issues surrounding this group of well-needed workers in St. Kitts and Nevis. Right. So with respect to what she called the government, those who are what we call auxiliary workers, as she called non-establishment. This group, we have been looking at a number of critical matters. For example, one, their long service gratuity. Actually, the last administration made a shift and said that the calculation that was being made before was not legal, where the long service was being calculated in a particular way which will benefit the worker much more in terms of their compensation package. Simple words, more money. The administration said then that they were being miscalculated, which means they were getting more than they should get. And it was changed. And so if you were to calculate their gratuity now is much lower, which is to their disadvantage. We are looking at that as an administration because we are saying that we want to do things that would favor the worker. And I think maybe that is what the caller is thinking of, nothing is there for me. Because now they're coming for the gratuity, they realize it's much smaller than would have been calculated before. And therefore, we are saying that we need to adjust that. With respect to also their pension plan, just today in the Treasury, I had the discussion that a committee had been in place, and the committee will be asked to continue its work to resolve the issue of the pension issue for the auxiliary, or as she called it, non-established workers. And so, therefore, those are two very critical matters to look at. We have already started to look at the one with the gratuity, and the cabinet is of the principled opinion that they should be given the old way of calculating so that they can benefit more. I can say that clearly. And the second one is with respect to their pension, which when that committee completes its work, it can send a report to the government, to the cabinet for consideration, but always looking for ways in which we can better serve and help our workers.
All right, thank you so much, Prime Minister. We're just 5 minutes past the 12 o'clock hour, so I just wanted if you have any parting words before you leave to wrap up before we take a break for the headline news.
Right.
Go ahead.
I want to say thank you once again for this opportunity, and I look forward to coming again where I can have more questions, because that is the part I really want to get to interact with our people. But we have a whole set of measures which we are using to stimulate the economy and really to bring justice to the system, the gratuitous payment, the honorarium, the double salary, and so forth. We have now at the cusp of launching a small a business loan, a loan for small to medium-sized businesses, what we call a soft loan, a very favorable loan. I think the interest rate will be at 2.5% with favorable terms at the Development Bank, and I think 2 other institutions to be announced. And so why have we done this? We know that businesses have been hit hard. We know that a lot of businesses are struggling. And so we want to inject some monies, some financial resource into these businesses to give them a better opportunity to come back on, to be a successful business, to recuperate, to recover. And so that is also one of the measures that we are taking, support to our small and medium-sized businesses so that we can help them to get back on track, especially for the carnival season. And part of this is, for example, you have taxi drivers. You have people who are taxi. I dealt with the taxi drivers during the pandemic, even before I came into government, where I offered them free medical checks because I know they were not making any money. And so I offered them free medical checks so that they can get their taxi licenses. I did that for a number of them. And this type of loan can benefit them tremendously in terms of getting their license, in terms of them getting their vehicles, in terms of them getting on the road. So those in the tourism industry who we want right now to be taking around these tourists who are coming on these ships, we are saying to them that we have remembered you. We have remembered our operators, our taxi drivers, and so forth, our persons who are in the hotel industry. And so I hope that they would benefit from this program. And so I want to say that we have not forgotten our people. Our people are at the first in our line of getting things done, in the sense that we have to make sure that our human resources were taken care of here in St. Kitts and Nevis. It has been a tough 2 years, and now coming out of COVID, where we have opened up the country, we are saying that we need to stimulate the economy. We need to really look out for our people in the different sectors who were hit extremely hard so that they can have a chance to bounce back and to survive. And I will wrap up. Go ahead.
I was wondering if the rollout of the loans would be in December or in the new year?
No, in this month.
This month?
Before Christmas. Because the objective is if we can get our taxi drivers, operators, small business owners, people who want to be there for the Christmas season. Because as you know, Christmas by its nature is a time when a lot of businesses make a good part of their profits for the whole year. And so we don't want them to miss this at this Christmas. And I want to say this is one of the other measures. And more details will come very, very, very shortly, and it will be rolled out so that people can now understand that the program is there to help our small and medium-sized businesses, including those in the tourism industry, such as the taxi drivers and so forth. And so I would like to wrap up and say to you, Mr. Brown, thank you for having me you're a cool-spirited person, but you have some very poignant questions. So thank you for that. I want to thank those who called in as well with their questions. I was happy to answer them, and I look forward to more questions where I can answer more questions as well. I want to say to those who are listening here and abroad, thank you for your time. You could have been doing something else. Your government, in the first 100 days, has done an exceptional job. I encourage you to go to SKNS to see the full list of things that we have done. If I were to call them out today, I think we'll go up to 1 o'clock. But in that short time, we have done a significant amount of work building the foundation of creating the sustainable island state, which we plan to achieve here in St. Kitts and Nevis. So I want to thank our people for bearing with us, for their patience as we continue to roll out, and to let them know they are always first in line for all that we have planned to do now and in the future. So thank you all very, very much once again, and let me thank all those in my cabinet, the ministers, who have been working extremely hard to make sure that we roll out the commitments that we made to our people. Thank you.
And thank you very much, Prime Minister, for joining us here on Voices this morning. We appreciate your contribution to, public discourse. And we look forward to more conversations with you. We are going to head straight to the headline news here on WinFM 98.9, and then we'll be back with the last hour, the second hour of Voices here on WinFM 98.9, where we'll continue the discussion with callers on what the Prime Minister spoke about this morning. Stay tuned.
You found the sound. 98.9. Win FM.
We now bring you the headline news. The headline news is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, The Grange, KDP Enterprises, Carib Brewery, and the ICDF Taiwan Technical Mission.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
You have the keys to your new car this Christmas? Now it's time to get it insured. Visit the Baldwin agents for Caribbean Alliance Insurance to save up to 65% off your motor insurance premium. All new clients are eligible for major discounts. Plus, there's lots of sweet prizes to be won. Switch and save and get in on the action. Visit us today in St. Kitts or Nevis, or give us a call at 465-2631 or 469-5303. Promotion ends December 31st and all quotes are valid until January 31st. Drive secure this Christmas with Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Terms and conditions apply.
With over a century of perfection behind the Mackeson name, a smooth blend with perfect balance and richness. It's no wonder Mackeson Triple Stout has a legacy of perfection. Enjoy the world over. Introducing our new look with the same great taste. Macusson. All hail the king.
Please drink responsibly.
Think before you bin it. There can be some use in it. The Nevis Solid Waste Management Authority, in collaboration with Taiwan ICDF Technical Mission and the Department of Environment, presents Let's Recycle. We're encouraging all residential homes, commercial businesses, and schools to bring along your plastic bottles, metal cans, and aluminum cans, ready for an opportunity to win big. From 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the following locations: in Nevis, every second and fourth Friday of each month at Delta Petroleum, ex-Petrol in Camps, Big Six in Gingerland, and the Old Artisan Village in Charlestown. In St. Kitts, every second and fourth Tuesday at the Connery Roundabout, every first and third Tuesday at Buckley's parking lot in front of Best Buy, and the last Saturday of each month in Deep Bay. But wait, that's not all. 1 pound equals 1 point. So bring your recyclables and build up your points for a chance to win stainless steel thermal bottles, flatware, and much more. To learn more about the recycling project, do visit our Facebook page at Let's Recycle in St. Kitts and Nevis, or contact us at 465-2372. The choice is yours. Save it or waste it. You are the difference. So think smart. Take PAT, reduce, reuse, recycle.
With the Win Headline News, I am Kevon Brown.
And I am Yolana Weeks.
Making the headlines, St. Kitts and Nevis participates in two-day forum on human rights defenders in environmental matters. Russia unveils a statue of former Cuba leader Fidel Castro, while Cuba's current president, Miguel Diaz-Canel, is set to visit St. Vincent and the Grenadines in December. Internationally, Jerusalem bus stop blast leaves 1 dead and 14 injured. In Iran, hundreds have died in protests, including children, according to the United Nations. Now, the details. The Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, Ecuador, and Chile have coordinated a two-day forum on human rights defenders in environmental matters in Latin America and the Caribbean in Quito, Ecuador, from November 22nd through 23rd. According to the Government Information Service, the forum will provide a space for discussion on the situation of human rights defenders in environmental matters in Latin America and the Caribbean, bringing together the parties to the Escazú Agreement, recognized specialists in the field, civil society, and people or groups in vulnerable situations to examine the challenges faced by human rights defenders in environmental matters and the possible responses to these challenges. Environment defenders face risks and challenges, and the forum will outline how the Escazú Agreement provides a supporting framework at the regional and national levels. Darion Edmead, Environmental Education Officer in the Ministry of Environment, Climate Action and Constituency Empowerment for St. Kitts and Nevis, serves as the country's focal point for the Escazú Agreement and one of the coordinators for the Human Rights Forum. Edmead shared that the environmental defenders most exposed to abuse and reprisals include women, farmers, and indigenous people who fight against deforestation, extractives, or loss of culture, heritage, or identity. Everyday environmental defenders face abuse, threats, and harassment for their work addressing the triple planetary crisis of climate change, pollution, and natural loss. The forum is organized by the United Nations Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, UNECLAC, on behalf of the chair in Uruguay. In regional news, St. Kitts and Nevis participates in two-day forum on human rights defenders in environmental matters. Russia unveils a statue of former Cuba leader Fidel Castro, while Cuba's current president, Miguel Diaz-Canel, is set to visit St. Vincent and the Grenadines in December. Those reports and more from Carib Update. Internationally, Jerusalem bus stop blast leaves 1 dead and 14 injured. In Iran, hundreds have died in protests, including children, according to the United Nations.
Russian President Vladimir Putin and his Cuban counterpart Miguel Diaz-Canel unveiled a monument in a North Moscow square on Tuesday to Cuban revolutionary leader Fidel Castro, pledging to deepen their friendship in the face of U.S. sanctions against both countries. Castro, who took power in 1959, is not commemorated by statues in his homeland because his brother Raul said after his death in 2016 he wanted to avoid a personality cult. But Putin evoked his memory as he told Diaz-Canel the two countries needed to build on the solid foundation of friendship established between Castro and Soviet leaders. Russia, hit by Western sanctions over the conflict in Ukraine, is looking to strengthen political and economic ties with other countries opposed to what it calls U.S. hegemony. Cuba has been under a U.S. economic embargo since 1962 after the communist revolution led by Castro. Addressing the Russian parliament, Diaz-Canel showed his solidarity by directly endorsing Moscow's stated pretext for sending its troops into Ukraine. Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel is set to make an official visit to St. Vincent and the Grenadines early next month. Diaz-Canel will become the first Cuban leader to do so since the Cuban Revolution in 1959. St. Vincent and the Grenadines Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves told Parliament that Diaz-Canel will visit from December 3 to 5 and will travel to Barbados for the 8th Cuba-CARICOM Summit in Bridgetown. Prime Minister Gonsalves said that Parliament will hold a formal sitting in honor of the visiting Cuban leader and that, as has been the case when heads of governments have addressed Parliament, he and the leader of the opposition, Godwin Friday, will also address the Parliament. The Dominican Republic says it rejects criticism of its crackdown on Haitian migrants from a growing number of countries and human rights agencies. Dominican authorities have ramped up border enforcement and deportations of Haitians, saying such actions are crucial to national security amid intensifying turmoil in the neighboring country due to a gang blockade of fuel supplies and a cholera outbreak. Authorities say they deported 43,900 migrants, largely Haitians, between July and October. In September and October alone, deportation figures shot up by about 50%. The government's actions have sparked heavy criticism in recent weeks from Haiti, the UN Human Rights Chief, and the United States. Former Haitian Prime Minister Laurent Lamothe is demanding an apology from Canada after the country linked him to conduct of Haitian political elites who provide illicit financial and operational support to armed gangs in the French-speaking Caribbean country. In a statement, Lamothe described Canada's decision as absurd, adding it is not based on any verifiable fact or evidence and is inconsistent with his track record of fighting crime and implementing law and order. Lamothe vehemently condemned the levity with which these false accusations were made. The former Prime Minister said he was the first to plead in favor of an international tribunal to shed light on the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse, which may disturb many in the current government. Moïse was gunned down at his private residence on July 7 last year, and while several people, including former Colombian army officials, have been detained, no one has been officially charged with his assassination. Lamothe said that during his tenure as Prime Minister from 2012 to 2014, the fight against insecurity was his main priority. The United States Coast Guard has transferred 217 Haitians to Bahamian authorities after they were found in the vicinity of Dog Rocks in the Bahamas. The Coast Guard said crews from the cutters Escanaba and William Flores had stopped the grossly overloaded 40-foot sailing vessel. Since October 1 this year, the U.S. Coast Guard said its crew have interdicted 395 Haitian migrants. Former Cayman Islands Premier Makiva Bush is under investigation for a new allegation of sexual assault dating back more than 2 decades. In a brief statement, a police spokesperson stated that the police received a complaint concerning an allegation of sexual assault against Mr. Bush dating back to 2000. The allegations come some 8 weeks after Bush resigned from the role of Speaker of the Cayman Islands Parliament amid public criticism over a separate, unrelated incident of alleged assault against 2 women.
We now bring you these international reports.
Several people have been injured in 2 explosions close to 2 bus stops in Jerusalem. Police and emergency services have arrived at the scene. The injured have been taken to hospitals around the city. According to Israeli army radio, the blasts were caused by explosive devices, but police say they are investigating multiple possibilities. Now, it was 2 separate explosions at 2 bus stops, we believe, and 2 very busy areas of Jerusalem as people were heading to work. There have been videos from one scene showing people running, debris scattered across the street. Now, Israeli media says that one blast was likely to have been caused by a device left at the scene. It was close to a bus station at a main road entrance to Jerusalem. That has injured at least 12 people, 2 of them critically. Now, at the other bus stop in the other part of the city, there have been minor injuries. Our correspondent Tom Bateman is with us now. Tom, thanks for joining us. What can you tell us about what has happened in these 2 areas?
As you say, 2 explosions, one of which took place at what is quite a busy bus station on one of the main road entrances to Jerusalem. It's the number 1 highway. It links Jerusalem to Tel Aviv. And at that time of the morning, it would have been very busy with people heading to work. And as you say, some of the images that we have from the scene so far are showing debris scattered across the streets and people running in the aftermath of the explosion. Now, Israeli officials and paramedics say that at least 12 people have been wounded in that blast. 2 of them are critically injured at the moment, being treated in hospital. And then we have a second explosion, another part of Jerusalem, not too far away, but again appears to be targeting a bus stop. And pictures from that scene showing a bus with a shattered windscreen, what looks like shrapnel damage at the front of the bus, and paramedics saying that 3 people have received minor injuries from that. Now, as regards the first explosion, Israeli media reporting at the moment that the device may have been left at the scene. There are reports of an electric bicycle that CCTV cameras have picked up being left there, and that may have been where the device was hidden. There's no confirmation of that at the moment. That's being reported by Israeli media, but the Israeli police releasing a statement saying that they describe this as a suspected Palestinian attack.
And Tom, while you've been speaking, just one line from the AFP news agency that police are now saying that 1 person has been killed in one of those bombings. So developments coming in all the time.
Yeah, it is developing. And what we've had also from the police is that they're concerned that there may be other devices at other bus stations. A police chief saying that he expects to see police officers at bus stations, not just in Jerusalem, but up and down the country. Now, the point about this is there has been a spate of deadly gun and knife attacks targeting Israelis this year, more than 20 Israelis killed. Meanwhile, the Israeli military has carried out waves of military raids into Palestinian cities in the occupied West Bank. And we've seen a very big Palestinian death toll this year as well, with more than 130 Palestinians being killed, many of them by Israeli gunfire during those raids. So there has been this concern about escalating violence, about things continuing to slip further out of control. And while I say that wave of attacks has taken place this year, the use of explosives in Jerusalem would be the most significant attack of its kind in many years.
The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights says more than 300 people have been killed in protests in Iran, including more than 40 children, and denounced a hardening of Iranian responses to the protesters. Over the weekend, Iranian forces known as the Islamic Revolutionary Guards targeted Kurdish-populated cities in West Iran. They also attacked positions in northern Iraq held by Kurdish groups. The protests erupted following the death of Kurdish-Iranian woman Mahsa Amini while in police custody in September. Well, for more on this and on what's going on in the Kurdish regions, I'm joined by Gia Gol from BBC Persian. Gia, let's talk about first these numbers. So, like I said, the UN says 300 protesters have been killed. You have an update on that number.
The latest we have from Iranian human rights group based in Norway, they monitor what is happening in Iran, is 416. And they say 51 of those have been killed are children. below 18-year-old, and 9 of them are girls. And in the last week, just 72 people have been killed. They say 56 of them are from Kurdish region. It does explain, because last week the Kurdish region have been the scene of mass protest across that region. We're talking about 4 provinces in northwest of Iran. And some of the cities are very small, but the kind of confrontation we have seen there, we never seen before anywhere else in the country. Even Fars News, which is the official agency linked to Revolutionary Guard, said in some places in that region, they have used a live bullet against protesters.
The Kurdish regions, I mean, you're not surprised about this. Your family are from there, but these protests began there. And frankly, they've been the epicenter, the front lines of these protests from the very beginning, 3 months ago.
Yes, they have been. I think one of the reasons is the sense of community is in small towns are stronger. And also the Kurdish political parties who are opposition to the government, who normally reside in Iraqi Kurdistan, have influence, have networks inside the country. Also environmentalist group. There is so many cultural groups. These groups have organizational skills. That's why we see in Kurdish region, in cities even, neighborhood by neighborhood, if security forces, for example, attacking south of the city, in north of the city, suddenly people come out. So there is a coordination, and I think one of the commander in Revolutionary Guard recently has said, the head of a snake is in Kurdish region. If we cut it off, the rest of the country calm down. That's why if you ask anyone who monitoring that region, they say the Kurdish region have kept the flame of the protest alive in the rest of the country.
More than 200,000 people have run away from the M23 armed group as it's advanced in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo.
The soldiers started removing their big guns that were in front of our homes and took them away. This is why we have decided to leave.
M23 is widely understood to be backed by Rwanda. Uganda's also been accused of providing support. Both governments deny it. UN peacekeepers filmed 500 fighters entering Congo from Rwanda earlier this year. Rwandan soldiers have been photographed in areas held by M23. Their helmets have distinct plastic mounts for equipment, the same as those worn by some M23 fighters seen in this video released by the armed group. Congo's forces have lost ground to M23 in recent weeks. East African leaders plan to hold talks on Thursday. People have demonstrated in cities across Congo in recent months against Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni and Rwandan President Paul Kagame, who they blame for decades of military aggression in Congo. Campaigners say the international community needs to help.
We
don't have confidence in the East African community to bring peace. We can never expect Kagame to back down and withdraw. Economic and military sanctions need to be imposed on Rwanda because it depends on funding from other countries.
Earlier this year, the UK paid Rwanda about $160 million to receive deported asylum seekers. After decades of animosity, France and Rwanda restored relations last year, and French President Emmanuel Macron promised €500 million of aid. While tens of thousands of people have been forced into insanitary camps, the US has expressed concern over Rwanda's involvement. The UN, the UK and France have condemned M23, but they haven't said who's backing the group.
For UK, we know that they have this deal with Rwanda. There is also France, who is involved with Rwanda in Mozambique. Can be a barrier to take a stand for the right decision, which should be to make sure that all this is stopped.
Rwandan soldiers are fighting insurgents in northern Mozambique, where French oil giant Total has a $20 billion gas project. They wear the same helmets as some M23 fighters. 9 years ago, Congolese forces defeated M23 and its fighters fled to Rwanda and Uganda. That time, Congo had international military support, and the US and other countries blocked military aid to Rwanda. This time, people here are waiting to see if politicians from this region and beyond will do what's needed to bring peace and let them go home. Malcolm Webb, Al Jazeera, Goma, Democratic Republic of Congo.
Hundreds of workers joined protests at Foxconn's major iPhone plant in China Wednesday. The Zhengzhou site has come to represent a build-up of frustrations with the country's ultra-harsh health crisis rules. The trigger for the protests, which began early Wednesday, appeared to be a plan to delay bonus payments. That was according to many of the demonstrators on live-stream feeds, in videos which could not be immediately verified by Reuters. Some workers, surrounded by people in full hazmat suits, chanted, "Give us our pay." Other footage showed workers taking down quarantine barriers and smashing surveillance cameras. Many of the problems have emerged since Foxconn imposed a so-called closed-loop system in October. This sees operations staff live and work on site, isolated from the wider world. It's sparked anger about strict quarantine rules, the company's inability to stamp out outbreaks, and poor conditions. Former workers have estimated that thousands have fled the factory campus. Before the unrest, the Zhengzhou site employed some 200,000 people. To retain staff and lure more workers, Foxconn has had to offer bonuses and higher salaries. The firm said Wednesday it would communicate with employees and the government to avoid violent incidents from happening again. Foxconn is Apple's biggest iPhone maker, accounting for 70% of global shipments.
You were listening to the WinFM Headline News on 98.9. Our top stories were: St. Kitts and Nevis participates in two-day forum on human rights defenders in environmental matters. Russia unveils a statue of former Cuba leader Fidel Castro, while Cuba's current president, Miguel Diaz-Canel, is set to visit St. Vincent and the Grenadines in December. Internationally, Jerusalem bus stop blast leaves 1 dead and 14 injured. In Iran, hundreds have died in protests, including children, according to the United Nations. Thank you for listening.
That was the WinFM Headline News. The Headline News is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, The Grange, KDP Enterprises, Carib Brewery, and the ICDF Taiwan Technical Mission.
Think before you bin it. There can be some use in it. The St. Kitts and Nevis Solid Waste Management, in collaboration with Taiwan ICDF Technical Mission and the Department of Environment, presents Let's Recycle. We are encouraging all residential homes, commercial businesses, and schools to bring along your plastic bottles, metal cans, and aluminum cans, ready for an opportunity to win big. From 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. every second and fourth Tuesday each month at the following locations in St. Kitts: the Connery Roundabout, every first and third Tuesday at Buckley's parking lot in front of Best Buy, and the last Saturday of each month in Deep Bay. In Nevis, every second and fourth Friday of each month at Delta Petroleum, Ex-Petrol in Camps, Big Six in Gingerland, and Old Artisan Village in Charlestown. But wait, that's not all. 1 pound equals 1 point. So bring your recyclables and build up your points for a chance to win stainless steel thermal bottle, flatware set, and much more. To learn more about the recycling project, do visit our Facebook page at Let's Recycle in St. Kitts and Nevis, or contact us at 465-2372. The choice is yours. Save it or waste it. You are the difference. Reduce, reuse, recycle.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Merry Christmas. 'Tis the season to save with Delayed Wallet and Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Purchasing a new car this Christmas? Save up to 65% off. Yes, that's 65% off your motor insurance premiums. Switch and save.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International. By land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
Found the sound 98.9 Win FM weather.
Today's weather comes to you with the kind compliments of Beacon Insurance.
It's time to do better. Beacon's Be Better Group Health Plan now offers new and improved options that make health insurance affordable for small to medium businesses. Good medical cover gives you a competitive edge and takes care of the people that take care of your business. Get a better plan to build a better business. Call Kane Agencies or log on to beacon.co.tt for more info today.
Today's weather, mostly cloudy with a 70% or high chance of showers. Tonight, partly cloudy with a 70% or high chance of showers. Lingering moisture and instability in the atmosphere over the region will continue to heighten the chances of showers across the islands. Possible rainfall total for the forecast period is 6 to 13 millimeters or 0.25 or 0.50 inches. Sunset today will be at 5:35 p.m. Sunrise tomorrow at 6:20 a.m. That's your weather forecast for today, which came to you with the kind compliments of Beacon Insurance.
Isn't it great when your experience pays off? Finally, drivers 50 years and over can enjoy the benefits of their years of driving experience. With Beacon's 50 Plus plan, you can expect a hassle-free sign-up, affordable fixed rates, and free windscreen cover with your car insurance. Call Kane Agencies Limited at 465-3333 or log on to beacon.co.tt and get driving today.
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is Win FM. 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Here are your Horseman's Value Mart IG Value Club Blue Tag Special.
Running November 17th to the 30th.
Nestle Splash flavored water, just $7.99. Bird's Eye Steam fresh vegetables, $5.99. Culinary Circle pizzas, $29.99. Shoppers Value ice cream, just $35.99. Essential Everyday napkins, $12.49. IGA and Essential Everyday salad dressings, $9.49. And now our very low weekly
Value deals. Kellogg's Cornflakes, $19.99. Essential Everyday canned vegetables, $3.99. Colgate toothpaste, $9.99. IG and Essential Everyday cream cheese, $6.49. Essential Everyday ketchup, $4.99. Kraft Real mayonnaise, $18.99. Shop smart, shop Value Mart. Tell them in Spanish.
Sea listo y haga sus compras aquí a Value Mart.
Good afternoon, radio listeners, and welcome back to Voices here on WinFM 98.9. I'm your host this afternoon, Kevon Brown, and earlier, before the headline news, we were having a discussion with Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, the Honourable Dr. Terence Drew, and this afternoon, we're going to take a few calls to hear from you, the people, about, what was discussed with the Prime Minister. If you have any burning questions, any concerns you want to address, please feel free to call in with your questions. A few of the things he spoke about during the discussion we had, he was speaking about the economic situation of St. Kitts and Nevis. As it relates to the honorarium, I think he said that the honorarium would cost around $5 million for the government in paying those out. As we know, he also said that statutory bodies are working on paying the additional salaries for November. They're supposed to be paid this week. So that is the expectation for statutory bodies, because we know on certain social media pages, we saw people who said that they were employees of statutory bodies were querying why statutory bodies had not received the additional salary on the 22nd of November, as with the civil servants in the government, when they received their funds. He also spoke about some forms of corruption and money wastage in the government. What stood out to me was the $14 million that was spent on the new Bastyr High School, and the fact that there was nothing to show for that $14 million. So, hopefully there's a way to recoup that $14 million that was spent, or find out where it went, what it was for. If it was for some, work that was done prior, I don't know. I'm uncertain of the details, of course. But $14 million is quite a bit of money for that capital project. He also addressed the build out of the agriculture sector, because I know that has been another, stark talking point for a lot of people worried about food sustainability. There's been a lot of talk about energy security and all that, but if we can't feed people, then we run into real problems. And as was mentioned, he said in 2023, the hope is that they will introduce some initiatives that will help drive the economy forward. So we'll look forward to those initiatives and those decisions. And I think that starts with the budget for 2023 and how those allocations of expenditure for the government will look in building out the economy, how it will look for education, for health, additionally for the agriculture sector. He mentioned that the small business, there's going to be some alleviation through some small business loans through Development Bank, and he said there are some other initiatives that will be rolled out for small and micro businesses and those in the tourism sector, all in an effort to drive the economy. Of course, there is the worry that with an injection of funds in the economy, things might get expensive. We know that there's VAT Day coming up on Friday, the 25th of November, and then we have 2 additional VAT days, VAT reduction days, let me say. 2 additional VAT reduction days, VAT reduced days in December. I think it's the 16th and the 17th of December, where people can, get a chance to supply themselves with their Christmas goods, their New Year goods, through the VAT reduction. I know that I think it's through December, there's going to be concessions on goods coming into the economy, or people bringing in food stuff or commercial goods. There's going to be certain concessions on those goods in December, all through December. And I think there is concern on, with all of these mitigations, these injection of funds, these leniencies, there is concern, there's worry from some people out there about how that will affect the economy come in 2023. And like the Prime Minister said, the budget is going to be read sometime in December. I think he mentioned that it would be likely in the middle of December. I think the second week of December is what he said. So we'll see how the allocations for those, for the budget will look for 2023 and where the focuses are going to be. Hopefully there's going to be some focus on agriculture. We know there's going to be some focus on energy because there's plans to build out solar energy, wind energy, and geothermal, which is a huge push between St. Kitts and Nevis to kind of bolster the Federation's energy security. And there's a drive for that. Additionally, there were questions about, instead of paying the bonus for December, what about paying an increase? And we know that the civil servants got a 10% increase. That was, I think, retroactive to January recently. And so I guess that was a part of the decision why they went with a double salary instead of an increase right after an increase was already given to civil servants. So those were just a few of the things that the Prime Minister was speaking of. He answered questions from callers as it relates to land distribution. Apparently there's some hold up for the pricing of land for people who are who applied for land through the government. He said that sustainable development is currently digitizing certain records and asked for patience as they're trying to, I guess, fix certain procedures that would allow for a smoother transition from application to, getting the land and paying for the land on a monthly basis. The road up St. Peter's, he mentioned that that there is consideration for the road to be, it's one of the capital projects that needs to be done. The road needs to be dug up and replaced. Another road that needs to be repaired, of course, is the old road, Bear Road, that has been unpaved for, I think, about a month now. I think this week might have made it a month. For anyone that is traversing countryside going west, you know that that road is kind of the bane of our existence when we're traveling on the road at morning times or evening times, because it was just dug up and now it's just left there. Trying to get answers as it relates to what's the hold up. Is there some issue as to why the road was dug up and there's nothing going on it right now? So a bunch of capital projects. The Bastia High School situation still has to be sorted out when that construction will begin, as well as the new hospital. That's another consideration, and I guess we'll see from, as I said, from the budget allocations and what they do with the budget, and where the funds are going to be allocated and where those capital expenditures are going to fall as it relates to priority. We're going to see that in the next coming weeks. I think that is going to illuminate some of the plans that the government has and answer a lot of questions that people have as it relates to, where the country is going forward. We'll take a quick break and then we'll be back to take your calls.
Found the sound 98.9 FM.
Triple that cash back. From now until December 31st, Hosford's Furniture and Appliances in Ashley Furniture Home Store is going to triple that cash back. Triple that cash back. You heard right. Hosford's is going to triple that never-ending cash back now with 3 big ways to save. 1. Get low monthly and weekly payments and no payment until February 2023. 2. Get a chance to win absolutely free groceries for 1 year. 3. Triple that never-ending cashback at Hosford's Furniture and Appliances in Ashley Furniture Home Store for even more groceries. Triple that cashback today at Hosford. Triple the savings. Triple the free groceries. Triple the extraordinary. Triple that never-ending cashback today. See store for details.
And we're back with Voices here on WinFM WinFM 98.9. I'm your host this afternoon, Kevon Brown, and before the break, we were just, going over what the Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Terence Drew, was speaking of when he was on for the first hour of Voices. Gonna switch gears a little bit. Yesterday, there was a situation where a post was making the rounds on social media, claiming that the Governor General had a project to help people create wealth, I think is what the post was saying based on what I saw. And yesterday I was trying to find out where the post originated from, because it had the markings of the St. Kitts Nevis Observer. Of course, when you check the Observer's website, there was no such article on their page. So it was quite interesting to see that, some unknown page with the title "I Like It" on Facebook was sharing false information as to regards the Governor General and some fake project to help families get wealthier. I found the page, rather somebody found the page for me, a coworker found the page for me and sent the page. And upon reviewing the page, the supposed article isn't there, or the post isn't there anymore. There's no mention of it. There's no photo that is on it. Just a bunch of posts or likes that go back to January 1st. But the pictures that were shared suggested that there was some program that the Governor General was initiating due to the financial crisis. And in response, the Governor General sent a statement to deny all of those claims that was made about the Honorable Governor General having this project. So this one Facebook page managed to defame not only the Observer but the Governor General in one foul swoop. So that was a very interesting thing to see yesterday, how easy it is for these situations where people just send false reports, false news articles, and it reads like a scam, to be quite honest. A scam to trick people into, I guess, divulging personal information. We weren't able to actually get into what was on the page, because by the time we started looking for it, there was nothing to say, to give any instructions, or no article on it or anything. Good afternoon, caller. You're live on Voices.
Pre-approved for a 10-year term loan at 5% APR for up to $500,000.
Whoa. Wow. Well, I guess they're listening. I don't know what that was. That seemed... Ooh, that's weird. As I talk about scams, some telecom company just randomly called us to offer us some loan. Interesting. But it's quite interesting to see how these scams are getting, more ingenious, more bold, let me say. They're getting more bold because you incorporating a well-known newspaper in St. Kitts and Nevis, and then you're using the Governor General's name to push some idea that's going on. There's no owner to the Facebook page. There's no owner to the article. So it was quite interesting development yesterday. But as I said, the Governor General put out a statement to deny that there is any such project going on, there's any such program. So please be aware of those types of things, because they're trying to get your information. They're trying to get sensitive information so that they could exploit you, and we would hate that to happen. We're going to take a short break, and then we'll be back.
INN is 98.9. 98.9 is Win FM.
Here are your Horsford's Value Mart IG Value Club Blue Tag Specials.
Running November 17th to the 30th.
Nestle Splash flavored water, just $7.99. Bird's Eye Steam fresh vegetables, $5.99. Culinary Circle pizzas, $29.99. Shoppers Value ice cream, just $35.99. Essential everyday napkins, $12.49. IGA and Essential Everyday Salad Dressings, $9.49. And now, our very low weekly
Value deals! Kellogg's Cornflakes, $19.99. Essential Everyday Canned Vegetables, $3.99. Colgate Toothpaste, $9.99. IG and Essential Everyday Cream Cheese, $6.49. Essential Everyday Ketchup, $4.99. Kraft Real Mayonnaise, $18.99. Shop smart, shop Value Mart. Tell them in Spanish.
Sea listo y haga sus compras aquí a Value Mart.
Welcome back to in Voices here on Win FM 98.9. Kevon Brown here, back again with you this afternoon for the second half of our show. Also hot on the minds of people is the pending Nevis elections. We know that they're constitutionally due by the end of March of 2023. And there's speculation, of course, that the elections will be held in December, which prompted the Evangelical Association and I think the Christian Council to write a letter concerning their grievance with the fact that elections may be held because no date was given. So we are unaware of when the election will be held. We know that it is constitutionally due by March of 2023, which is like 3-4 months away. So there is still time before the date is to, the date needs to be announced. I think based on what the Premier recently said, the time runs up sometime in December, and then they have a certain amount of days, 90 days, I think, before they have to actually call the election, and the election will be held, yada, yada, yada. On Nevis, so people are waiting with bated breath. Campaigning is going on in full force, but the Evangelical Association had an issue with the possibility of the election happening in December, and I think the last local election happened in December as well, and they brought up the same thing last year, the last election as well. And in response to the letter, the Premier of Nevis, the Honourable Mark Brantley, he said he responded to the Evangelical Association, but at a recent town hall, he responded to them because a participant of the town hall asked a question as it relates to the election date, which he said in his last press conference that he's praying about it. And he had some words for the Evangelical Association on their claim that the election shouldn't be held in December because December is a holy time of the year. The Advent is a holy time of the year and should not be encumbered by an election. Let's listen to his response.
Well, I will take that. There was a letter written to me as Premier and signed by Reverend Ron Daniel and Reverend Cicely Brown on behalf of the Evangelical Association. I think the Nevisians would know that we have two groups, the Christian Council and the Evangelical Association. So they came on behalf of the Evangelical Association and indicated that Advent, which is a holy time of year, starts on November 27th and runs up to, I believe, Christmas Eve, and that they wanted an assurance that there would be no election during that time because of the holy nature of that period of time. I should say that I welcome, as Premier of Nevis, interactions with the church. The church is an important institution here on the island. But I confess that the letter, the tone of the letter was a little unfortunate, because in the letter they indicated that if I were to call an election in December, they would not stand idly by. And I wasn't so sure what they meant by that, because I didn't think it was, just as it would be out of order for me to seek to threaten the church, I think it is out of order for the church to seek to threaten the government. It is within the purview, as a matter of law, of the Premier of Nevis to call an election at any point that he feels to call an election. Those are the rules and that is the law. And as I said, while I welcome interaction with the church, I thought the letter was a little combative when it didn't need to be. Notwithstanding that, I have responded to the letter, and I've indicated to the church that the election will come when it will come. And we just have to deal with it. Because the truth is that while Advent is certainly a holy time of year, Advent, I believe, starts on the 27th of November. It ends on Christmas Eve, I think, then there's Christmas Day. Then Epiphany starts on January 6th. It runs all through February. And then Lent starts. Lent runs all through March. Then Easter starts. Easter runs all through April. So when are we going to have the election? So the question is, for me, one of respecting the church, because I will never disrespect the church, but also saying to the church that we have a constitutional responsibility to have an election so that the people of Nevis can elect the government of their choice. And so we will have to proceed with respect, but we'll have to proceed to do what we need to do to ensure that we stay within the bounds of the Constitution, because we know that the 5 years expires on the 19th of December, and then we have an additional 90 or so days, which takes us to about April as a overtime that we could have the election. But that entire period from now until the end of April is a holy period. And there may be some argument among Christians as to whether Advent is holier than Lent or holier than Easter. I don't know. I'm not qualified to comment, but I know it's all a holy period. So we have responded. I should say though, since the question has been posed, that I did have an element of unease and discomfort that a letter written to me by the Evangelical Association could have found its way onto Facebook and in the public domain. I want to give the public the assurance that that did not come from the Premier's office. So I am not sure who would have leaked that letter to the public and what the intent of so doing is. But certainly, as I said, I view the church and always respect the church, respect what they do. But the church would also have, government has its role to play as well.
That was the Premier at a recent town hall meeting by the concerned citizens movement on their campaign trail for the upcoming election. Basically speaking out about the letter that was addressed to him by the Evangelical Association, and according to him, the letter seemed like a threat from the Evangelical Association because of the certain language that they used in the letter as it relates to if an election is called in December, they wouldn't sit idly by, and the vague ambiguity of that saying. We'll take a short break and then we'll be back with Voices here on Win FM.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Fresh Look Paint and Tiles sale. Give your home a fresh look with a fresh coat of paint and a fresh set of tiles. From Horswood's Building and Nevis Centre's 25% off Fresh Look Paint and Tiles sales event. Yes, come to Horswood's Building and Nevis Centre's today and get fresh savings of 25% off all paints and tiles store-wide. Come and give your home a fresh new look with fresh savings and fresh new colors. Fresh new piles of tiles in all styles with a fresh 25% off store-wide on all paints and tiles at Horswood's Building and Nevis Centre. Give your home a fresh start with a fresh new look with fresh new colors, fresh new piles of tiles in all styles, and fresh quality paint at Horswood's Building and Nevis Centre. Fresh Look 25% off paints and tiles sales event. See store for details.
And welcome back to Voices here on WinFM 98.9. I'm your host this afternoon, Kevon Brown. And we just have a few more minutes to the end of the show. Probably going to wrap up a little bit early. We had on before 12, we had the Prime Minister, the Honorable Terence Drew, engaging in some discussions with us as it relates to the state of the economy in St. Kitts and Nevis. Everybody's waiting for, how we're going to look come 2023, what the economy for St. Kitts and Nevis is going to look like come 2023. The ECCB said that we won't face a recession, even though, a lot of bigger countries, richer countries, are currently going through a bit of recession. I think the US, the UK, and I think they said the European Union is at risk of possibly going through an economic recession in 2023. The ECCB has projected that the region doesn't necessarily face that same conundrum of going through an economic recession, but of course that is determinant based on whatever variables come our way in the next coming weeks or in the beginning of the year, because we don't know what would happen. Everyone was anticipating that, coming out of COVID, things would have gotten a lot better. And then, there was the situation with Russia and Ukraine and how that affected the supply chain, the supply of food. I think the United Nations is worried about a shortage of food in 2023. So food sustainability and food security is a high issue for a lot of countries, especially countries who depend on the import of food, like a lot of Caribbean countries, as well as a lot of other countries who depend on aid to feed their people from people like the USAID, from organizations like the USAID, the United Nations, the World Food Program, UNESCO, UNICEF. So we don't know how the projected food shortage in 2023 will affect those programs. We don't know how it will affect people countries who import a lot of their food. There might be a situation where we'd have to look for other avenues of food import, because while the government has an initiative to get the import bill down by 25%, we have to start producing enough to feed our people before that can be achieved. And I don't think that can be achieved in the next couple of weeks before the start of 2023. So there are a lot of things to consider when going into 2023. Another good tip that was said time and time again for the individuals who got the additional salary in November, it's kind of a smart idea to save some of that for the new year, because we're uncertain of what would happen. We know how Carnival goes. We know how December time goes. There is indeed a lot of spend during December. That's when a lot of people, a lot of businesses tend to make a good chunk of their money to help them through the first quarter of the new year. But individuals should also be thinking about how they can survive the first month or the first couple months of the new year by using the resources that they have economically as possible. I think some of the advice recently given by either the World Bank or the IMF was to not make any huge purchases at the moment, because of the fluctuating nature of economies at the moment. We're still going through supply chain issues. I recently saw a post that even Inception is being affected by the supply chain issues, where they had to cancel some of their events for this year because I guess it's not economically sound for them to carry on with their event the way they want to carry on their event, because of the difficulties that they're having in sourcing whatever they need to source to make their to make their events as robust as they normally make them. And I know that Carnival this year is kind of a big comeback for a lot of people, but I think there was an underestimation as to how the issues of supply chain and shortage of certain materials and whatnot kind of threw people for a loop a little bit. But nonetheless, I hope we have a great Carnival. First Carnival in 2 years where we're back out on the street face to face. I know people are very much looking forward to that. Celebrating in a way that we haven't celebrated because of the restrictions placed upon us because of the pandemic in 2020 and 2021. We even missed a big bacchanal for our 50th. So, we got some time to make up for this year. But I do hope we keep it safe for everyone. We want everybody to make it into the new year and not be taken because of, too much partying, losing themselves a little bit because they're overexcited about being back on the road again. It's just about a couple minutes to the 1:30 hour. And we will wrap up the show here. Thank you so much for joining me on Voices here on WinFM 98.9. Thank you so much for the callers who called in and engaged the Prime Minister with your questions. I know there are plenty of other callers who wanted to call in, but we were running out of time and he was only here for an hour. So we hope he comes back. We welcome him back because there's much more to discuss. More people want to call in and ask questions and get some clarity on certain things. So we thank the Prime Minister for his time and welcome him back anytime at all here on WinFM 98.9. Thank you so much for tuning into Voices and stay tuned for more programming.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
I believe the children are